Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be talking about Mexico.
Okay.
Claudia Sheinbaum was just inaugurated as the country's first female president.
Wow.
It's definitely historic, but she's also like inheriting a country with some serious challenges.
Yeah, I imagine.
We're going to go beyond the headlines today, though, and really try to unpack this moment in Mexican history and see what it means for Mexico and for the U.S.
That's so good.
We're mostly looking at this new Associated Press article.
Okay, great.
So this is all very fresh.
It's crucial to understand the context here,
Yeah.
She's following Andrés Manuel López Obrador,
Right.
and he really shook things up.
Big shoes to fill.
Yeah, his approach to the cartels, the social programs,
Yeah.
even how Mexico engages with the U.S.
It's a tough act to follow, for sure.
Yeah.
And there are already so many challenges.
Like what?
Well, for one, the hurricanes that hit Acapulco 2 years in a row.
Right.
Can you imagine? Those beaches.
Devastating.
And Sheinbaum's first act as president was to visit the city.
Wow, a real trial by fire.
Exactly.
Her visit to Acapulco, I think it says a lot,
Yeah.
It shows solidarity with the people affected.
Of course.
But it's also strategic. She's showing she's not afraid of a challenge.
I see.
And the challenges keep coming. We need to talk about the cartel violence. What's happening in Culiacan.
Right. It's like something out of a movie.
It is.
It seems like that hugs not bullets approach might not have worked out quite as planned.
Yeah, it's complicated.
Yeah.
After El Chapo was captured, it created this power vacuum,
Right.
and now everyone's fighting for control.
So what can Sheinbaum even do?
It's really tough. If she cracks down too hard, it could just start a war.
But if she's too lenient...
Then she risks losing control entirely. It's a tightrope walk, for sure.
Definitely. And this violence is happening against a backdrop of corruption and inequality.
Exactly. These are issues that have fueled the cartels for decades.
So where does she even begin?
Well, she's pledged to protect López Obrador's legacy, like the social programs,
Right.
but she's also a scientist with a PhD in energy engineering.
That's true. It's a very different perspective.
It'll be interesting to see what she does. This isn't just about continuing what López Obrador started.
It's about how Sheinbaum, with her own background, will handle these issues.
Exactly. She might have a totally different approach, especially on climate change and energy. Remember, López Obrador was all about oil.
It's a tough position.
Definitely. The U.S.-Mexico relationship is always a factor,
For sure.
and the election could have huge implications for her presidency if the U.S. gets aggressive on trade or immigration.
It could really tie her hands.
Exactly.
It's a lot to take in, and we're just getting started. We've got Acapulco, the cartels, the U.S. election.
That's a lot.
Sheinbaum's facing some serious challenges right out of the gate.
And we haven't even touched on her specific policies, her relationship with López Obrador, or what it means for Mexico to have a woman in charge.
Okay, so we've talked about some of the big challenges Sheinbaum's facing, right? The cartels, the economy, the U.S.
Right.
But let's get into some specifics. I'm really curious about her energy policy. You mentioned she has a PhD in energy engineering,
Yes, she does.
which is so different from López Obrador's focus on oil. Could this mean a greener future for Mexico?
It could. During the campaign, she was really pushing renewables.
Like solar and wind.
Exactly. She even got solar panels installed all over Mexico City when she was mayor.
That's impressive. But López Obrador was all about oil. He even reopened those old refineries.
Yeah, it's a tough spot. She has these ambitious goals, but the resources are limited. And there's the whole political reality, too.
So how does it play out? I mean, in real terms.
Well, she's going to have to choose her battles.
Yeah.
How much political capital does she want to spend on this, especially with all these other problems?
That's true. And this is where her science background could be really valuable. I mean, we always hear about the need for evidence-based policy.
Right.
And who better than a scientist to actually do it?
Exactly. She understands climate science, and she has experience actually making policy happen in Mexico City.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It is. But let's not forget, Mexico is a major oil producer.
Right. Any move away from that is going to have consequences.
Definitely. It's a tough balance. Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room. The cartels. How's she planning on handling that? Because López Obrador's approach didn't really work out.
It's still early, but there are some signs. She hasn't totally abandoned hugs, not bullets. But she's also talking about a stronger, more coordinated security response.
So maybe a middle ground, social programs, but also targeted law enforcement.
Could be. She said that tackling poverty and lack of opportunity is crucial.
Which makes sense with her focus on social welfare.
Exactly. But she's also hinted at working more closely with the U.S. on drug trafficking.
Which brings us back to the U.S. What are the biggest issues that could affect U.S.-Mexico relations while she's president?
Trade, immigration, security. The big three, the U.S. is still Mexico's biggest trading partner by far.
Right.
So any new tariffs or anything like that would be really bad for Mexico's economy.
It shows how connected the two countries are, even though the politics can be so tense.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
And then immigration.
Huh.
The U.S. depends on Mexico to stop migrants from Central America.
Right.
If the U.S. gets stricter on immigration,
Yeah.
it puts a ton of pressure on Sheinbaum to cooperate, and that could easily cause problems.
So a lot depends on how she handles the U.S. Does she stay close, even if it's tough? Or does she go her own way?
That's the big question. She wants a relationship of equals.
So more autonomy.
It seems like it. But the reality is she might have to be more realistic. The
Yeah.
economy, the security situation, it all plays a role.
It's a tough spot to be in, for sure. It seems like every decision has all these different factors Sheinbaum has to consider.
Yeah, it's a lot to juggle. But at the end of the day, what matters is what all this means for the average person in Mexico.
Exactly. Can she actually improve people's lives?
That's the real test.
Yeah.
Can she deal with poverty, inequality, violence? Can she create opportunities for people?
And we can't forget the symbolic importance of her presidency. She's the first female president of Mexico. That's huge.
It is. It really is. It sends such a powerful message to women and girls all over Mexico, all over the world. Really, representation matters.
It does, but at the same time, we can't expect her to be perfect just because she's a woman.
Of course not. But her gender is part of how people will see her presidency.
Absolutely. Along with her background, her policies, everything that's happening in the world.
It's all connected. It all plays a role in how her presidency will be judged.
So we're seeing a huge moment in Mexican history right now. Sheinbaum's facing all these challenges.
Cartels, the economy, the U.S.
It's a lot.
It really is.
Yeah.
But even with all that, I think there's some hope, too.
Yeah.
Maybe Mexico can become a more equal, more sustainable country.
Yeah. And maybe this is a chance for a new kind of leader on the world stage.
Someone who isn't afraid of tough problems, who wants to work with others, who isn't afraid to do things differently.
Exactly. Whether she succeeds or not, Claudia Sheinbaum is going to have a lasting impact on Mexico and the world. So, yeah, keep your eyes on Mexico because this story is just getting started.
That's a great place to leave it. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Mexico's new era.